Now that we have completed section 2 of our Falling for Autumn quilt, it's time to move on to section 3. Hi everyone, Cristin here, and oh boy, we finished section 2 and sewed section 1 and section 2 together. Isn't this gorgeous? Oh my gosh, don't you love that pumpkin, that piece pumpkin? I think that is so darn cute. And that soft blanket. And if you did personalizations, oh my gosh, the house blocks, I'm so in love with them. They're very personal to me. I think they're so much fun. I absolutely love how those came out. So much fun. There was something else. Oh, and the filler blocks. I love that we added little touches to them. So this is just, I'm loving this quilt. This is so much fun. I can't wait to hang it up. I actually just hung up my Halloween quilts. I have Broomhilda and Candy Corn Quilt Shop. I hung those up a few days ago and I'm loving having those up, but I can't wait to get this autumn one up. So I hope you're loving it too. It is now time to move on to section 3. So section 3, I looked ahead and it's really easy, actually, really easy. I'm pretty excited that we're gonna fly through section 3. By the way, we also have 2 more blocks, sections 1 and 2, and then 2 more blocks if you worked ahead, shown in the tutorials. So let's start now with the crisp apples block. The crisp apples block is on page 35 of our Falling for Autumn book. And let's go ahead and talk about the supplies that we need. There is something interesting with this one. And if you did spring showers with me, or if you did spring showers at all, then you know that there's something kind of interesting coming up as far as the that one fabric, what do you call it? The vinyl on top of the apples. Is that it? Yes, the prepped one. All right, so let's talk about this. So for our background fabric, our main fabric, let me just get this out of the way here. All right, so for our main fabric, it is this cream with lines all over it. Excuse my voice, I'm still trying to get over that cold. My goodness, it's almost all gone though. But anyway, so cream fabric with lines all over it. You do want to back this with fusible stabilizer. It's a large piece of fabric on a light fabric. So I would highly recommend stabilizing it with fusible backing. So this one we want to have at 10.5 by 8.5. You can see it's a big piece of fabric. 10.5 by 8.5. So that means actually I think it's going to go this way. 10.5 by 8.5 for this main fabric. All right. And then for the apples, what do we have here? The apples is that fusible vinyl. So I want to show you what I did. I'm storing mine like this. It doesn't have to be, but it just reminds me of what it is. So on this, you will get, in the embellishment kit, there was fusible vinyl. And I will walk you through the steps of how to prep that fabric. It's super easy to do. But follow it, because I remember in spring showers that people were putting their iron on the sticky side, or the sticky side of the vinyl, and then it would ruin it, and probably ruin your iron too. So follow the steps. I will show that in photos. It's very easy to do. But you're going to take the apple fabric, which is that red burgundy fabric, and then we're going to put that fusible backing on top of it, and we're going to cover it with the back of that fusible backing and then press it, and that's it. It's really very simple. And like I said, I store it this way. I'm not sure why, but I always have. Not a big deal. But then when we're ready, we'll have our fabric already all prepped and using it with that fusible what do you call it? Fusible vinyl on top of it. And then we'll just give it a little sheen to it. Remember that for spring showers? That was pretty fun. It was on the rain boots. That was really cute. Excuse my voice again. All right, so on the apple fabric, we're going to have our fabric. It's that maroon burgundy fabric. That's going to be 4.5 by 2.5. 4.5 by 2.5, and we want one piece of that, 4.5 by 2.5 for the apple fabric. All right, and then the fusible vinyl is the same thing. It's 4.5 by 2.5, and again, it's that sticky part, but it's laid down on top of the fabric, and then you cover it with this, the paper side of that vinyl. So that is also 4.5 by 2.5 for the fusible vinyl, and I took photos of each part of the process so that you know how to do this. It was very simple. All right. And then next up we have the bucket band and base. So the bucket band and base is, let's see, do we have two? We have two of them. All right, so it's this dark chocolate silky solid. All right, dark brown chocolate colored silky solid, two pieces that are 4.5 by 1.5. 4.5 by 1.5, and it's just a dark brown silky solid. And I did back mine with fusible stabilizer. That's completely optional, totally up to you. I like to do that on my applique pieces like I've mentioned in lots of the videos. So two pieces, 4.5 by 1.5. All right. And then we have the sliced apple. So the sliced apple is going to be a cream silky solid, and that one we are going to have it be 3 by 2.5. 3 by 2.5, and I did back mine with fusible stabilizer, and if you do that, just be aware that it will look very similar, the cream side and the fusible backing side. Somebody commented on one of my videos and said that they write a little note on the back of the fusible backing so that they know which side is the back. It's pretty light, so I don't know if I would do that, but if you used like a water soluble pen or even an iron pen, something like that, that would certainly work. But whatever works for you. The way that I tell is the back has like a I don't remember what I called it, but where you can see like a little grain to it on the fusible backing, a weaving. That's what it is. You can see the weaving on the back of the fusible stabilizer, and the top side of the fabric doesn't show that way. So that's how I always tell. But sometimes I do these late at night and then I need my classes to look at them. So just be aware that they look very similar. All right. So that was our sliced apple piece, and it's 3 by 2.5. 3 by 2.5. All right, and then we have that beautiful cork. I love cork. Isn't that so pretty? That is really fun. And our sponsor, so Daylily Fabric Shop, she carries a lot of different corks, and I've bought some to make purses and things. There's lots of really pretty colors, just so you know. So if you haven't already, by the way, I just want to remind you, our sponsor is Daylily Fabric Shop. She has all of the Falling for Autumn supplies and lots of other things in her shop. I will add a link here for the Falling for Autumn supplies on her Etsy shop, Daylily Fabric Shop, right here to order your supplies. And if you haven't started with us yet, there's still plenty of time to jump in. All right, so on the cork, our cork is for the bucket, and this is going to be 4.5 by 4.5. I didn't even measure it. We were only using it for one thing, so I didn't bother cutting it. It comes in our embellishment kit, and it's all ready to go. Don't back cork with anything. Leave it as is. So again, 4.5 by 4.5, or whatever you received in the embellishment kit. It's usually actually a little bit bigger than we need, and you don't need to pre-cut it. Obviously, we're just going to use it as an applique piece. So 4.5 by 4.5 for the cork. All right, and then the other thing that we need is wash away topping. That's that one with the blue. I should grab it. Wash away topping. I'll show you real quick what it is. All right, so the wash away topping is this one. All right, it is the light blue, and it says on it wash away topping embroidery stabilizer. There's this one also, and so I want to just point out the difference. This one is wash away embroidery stabilizer. It doesn't say topping on it, and you can see it's got a darker label. We want this one. All right, this is the one that we will use, and we'll just tear it away after we're done with it. Very simple to use. All right, wash away topping, and the size for the wash away topping is going to be 5.5 by 3.5. 5.5 by 3.5 of the wash away topping to put on top of our project. All right, and there are special trim instructions, by the way. Let's talk about the batting. Sorry. The batting, we want to have one piece of batting that is 9 by 7. 9 by 7 for your batting. And we are going to quilt this with Fruit 5. So the apples, that will be really cute. Fruit 5 in a 6 by 8 design, and it's in the vertical design. Okay, so Fruit 5 in 6 by 8 vertical design. And it says, align the block embroidery file so that it is centered vertically and a 1/2 inch from the outside left edge of the quilting design. After quilting, we'll go to the embroidery instructions. So I'm going to show you that part in embroidery software. Because this one, most of them, it says to have them centered, have the embroidery design and the quilting design centered. And this one does not say that, so that's super important. That means we have to move the embroidery design to a certain place on the quilting design right from the start. Okay, so I am going to show you that in embroidery software. And then there are special trim instructions, but the trim instructions are... It's going to work just fine with our quilting since we're quilting in the hoop. So we're not going to have to worry about that, but I will tell you, it says square the finished block to 8.5 by 6.5 with the design centered horizontally and with the top apple stem 1/2 inch below the inner edge of the ruler. So again, I'm going to show you how to move it from the start. So it's not going to affect us because we are going to do our quilting. And if we move it to the correct spot, then we'll have that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that will make us know exactly where to cut with that 6.5 by 8.5 design. It will work out, don't worry. One other thing I want to mention, if you are using a smaller hoop, like a 5 by 7 hoop, then you would do this in 2 hoopings, and you would do it, let me see, here's the design, what side? The design is a 5 by 7 crisp apple, so it's just the quilting design that you would have to double hoop. So to do that, it would be really easy because our quilting design is 6 by 8. So you would do a 4 by 6 twice. 4 by 6, 4 by 6, that would give you the 6 by 8 quilting design. All right, and you'll do it in 2 hoopings of 4 by 6 quilting. So very easy to do. So let's go ahead and get started on our crisp apples. But don't forget, I'm going to bring you over to the computer to give you a visual of where you need to move the apple design, the crisp apples embroidery design. You can do this on embroidery software. If you're using Embellishment Essentials, I will add a link here for you to purchase Embellishment Essentials using my affiliate link. If you want to do it on your embroidery machine, you absolutely can do that. I will give you the visual of what it will look like, and then you can move it around on your embroidery machine. I don't personally like to do that. I find it a lot easier on a big computer monitor versus the smaller embroidery machine. I'm just not as apt with my machine, with that part of my machine versus using software. It's easier for me. So do you, whatever works for you. And like I said, I'll bring you over to the computer to show you a visual of what that will look like. Hey everyone, I'm at my computer now, and I am just going to give you a visual of where to move the embroidery design on the quilting design for the crisp apples. So I've tested it out and I figured out a couple of ways of doing it. So I'm going to show you both so that you can figure out what works best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Embellishment Essentials. That's the embroidery software that I prefer. And I am on my 7 by 12 hoop, which is actually what I want to be on. If you're not on the hoop size you want, go up to this preferences folder, click on the hoop size you want, click on OK, and then click this compass button and click H for hoop so it zooms into the hoop. All right, and you can always see what hoop size you want or what hoop size you're on down here at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to start by bringing in the quilting design. So I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File, and then I'm going to bring in the quilting design. So Falling for Autumn Quilting, we want Fruit 5, Embroidery Files, Pez is what I use for my machine. We're looking for a 6 by 8, so I'm going to scroll down and a little bit too far, 6 by 6, 6 by 8, horizontal and vertical. Don't forget, we want the vertical one. So double click on that. It goes to the center, and you can always see that it's in the center. If you click on the stitching, you can see from those black squares that we have it centered. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring in the embroidery design. So I'm going to go to Merge Stitch File, and I'm going to close up the quilting and find my embroidery files, Pez, Quilt, and then we're looking for the crisp apple block. There it is right there. Double click on that. It goes to the center. All right, now again, you can click on the design and you can see from the black squares that it is centered. We actually don't want this one centered. We want it moved just a little bit, not very much. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. So the first one is, again, if you have this clicked on it, then we can see those black arrows. We want it lined up 1/2 inch from, so let me read it to you again. Align the block embroidery file so that it is centered vertically. So in other words, this part we want vertically centered. And 1/2 inch from the outside left edge of the quilting design. So our quilting design is here, and this is the outer edge, that placement and tack down of our main fabric. You can see it slightly in like gray. It looks like it's gray in the background. All right, so from here to here, we want it to be 1/2 inch. All right, so to do that, we are going to have it, this is what I've come up with. There's this ruler button. Oh, so one thing is you need your grid lines here. All right, I found it helpful to have grid lines. So if you don't have your grids, I didn't have my grids before. So if you go up to this view menu, you can see, I think it was toolbars. Oh, it was here, draw grid. All right, so draw grid helps. All right, I felt that that helps. Here's also a measure button. Let's see what that, oh, that just does the same as the ruler. So you can see the ruler highlighted. So you can do, what was it, view measure, or you can just click, I'm going to unclick this because you can do it from this button here so that you can see this little ruler. Click on that, and then you want to measure from that outer line. So here's that outer line right there, and then we're going to measure to that black square. So if I click this and then drag it while it's held down, you can see that we are currently at 3/4 of an inch. All right, so it's a little bit too far down. We want it to be 1/2 inch. So from there, you can guess, you can just move it around and keep checking it. That's what I did initially. So to do that, you would just unclick it and then unclick this measure tool, go move it to how you want it, and then measure it again, clicking that measure tool. That works. I already figured it out for you. It is 4 clicks to the left on your arrow key. So if I hit my arrow key while the crisp apple only design is selected, you don't want the embroidery, or I'm sorry, you don't want the quilting design selected, just the embroidery, which is the apple design. So from there, click that 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see if I got this right. So I'm going to click that measure tool again, and I'm going to click from that outside, what is it, the placement and tack down of the main fabric. So from that line right there, and then to that black square, get it lined up just right. And down in the bottom, sorry, I'm moving it while I'm trying to look around. It looks like I'm a little too far. I'm at 9/16 of an inch. I'm going to check it again by unclicking and then click on that line and click it to that arrow, 1/2 inch. Okay, so there's my 1/2 inch. So I did 4 clicks on my left arrow key to make it over. And again, you can check it by clicking the ruler button and then clicking that outside edge line right there, and then to the black square. All right, and there's my 1/2 inch. I could go in one more, but I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so that's one way of doing it, and that was super easy to do. The other way, let me show you the other way. If I click, let's see, if I put this back, I'm just going to, oops, unclick that ruler. Sorry, I'm just going to move it over here. All right, so if I click on the quilting design, you have to click on the stitching. The other option that I thought of is you can take this and you can line it up, so you could see that we've got these grids here. Here's the grid measurements up at the top and down along the side, but where the quilting design, because it's centered, it's not on one of those lines. So you could take your quilting design and line it up. I'm going to go ahead and just line it up at the top and along that line. All right, and when I say line, I mean any one of these squares, okay, just so that it's lined up. All right, so I have that lined up. Obviously, that's not where I want to keep it, but I'm going to do that to be able to use that line as my guide. All right, and then I'm going to click on the embroidery design, And from there, I can eyeball it. All right, so let me just show you. So if I've got my quilting design right on this -3 line right here, I would want it at a 1/2 inch, which is here. So then I would just eyeball it. The negative is that as soon as I click on this design, those black squares go away. It would make it a lot easier if those stayed there. And if you know how to keep them there, that let me know. But what I would do is I would just eyeball it. All right, so I'm just moving it to that 1/2 inch. So here's my line. Okay, I've got my design, my quilting design on that line, and then here's that 1/2 inch, and you can see, I mean, it's really, really close, if not exact. Okay. So that would be lining it up just right. We still would have to move it again because obviously this is not centered right now because I moved it. But once you have it where it is a 1/2 inch in from that outer line, which is here, and then the design now is there, then you've got it right. Okay, so I do still want to have this lined up. This has to be on that center guide. So let me move that back, trying to keep it in that space here. All right, and I don't think I did. Let me check it here. So here's my 1/2 inch, actually, yeah. So here's my 1/2 inch marker. Here's my -3, 1/2 inch. Hopefully I'm not confusing you too much. I'm keeping it centered. And let's see if that did it right. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to check it with my ruler tool. Click from that gray line, that outer line, just to see how close I got it. And there's 1/2 inch. You can see, by the way, let me let go so I can show you that it tells you when you're clicking on it. You can only see it when you're clicking on it, so it's gone away now. But down here in this left-hand corner, when I'm using the measuring tool, watch over here and you'll see what it does. So I'm on the measure tool. I'm going to click from that outer edge to that black circle, and you can see down in the bottom left-hand corner, it says it's at a 1/2 inch. All right, 1/2 inch. All right, so that is lined up right. So I'm going to go ahead and unclick my ruler. And then don't forget, you have to move this design though, because now it's like it's over the hoop. It's not in the right spot at all. So what you would do then is what I did is I'm going to close both of these so that I can click on them. Oops, close them. And then I can click from the bottom, drag up so that I have both of these designs. And I would click utility, not utility, edit, group. All right, and then from there I can bring them both down so that I keep my embroidery and my quilting design where it is, and then I would use those black squares to center it back up. So center and center. Okay, and then you can tell, I'm going to ungroup it just so that you can tell, because if it's grouped you can't tell. If you click on this, oh, it does let you do it. Sorry, I didn't think it would let me do that because it's grouped, but it does let me. So the ruler button, I can check it again from this outer edge to here, which now I have to go down because I'm not really even. There we go. There's my 1/2 inch. Okay, so you can see that I'm just showing you two different ways of doing it. On your machine, you can do it as well, but you want to get it a 1/2 inch in from that left-hand side, all right, and keeping it centered. Okay, so I'm going to ungroup it just so we can see again. Edit, ungroup. All right, and then we have the two designs. So here is our quilting design, and you can see that centered from the black squares. And then if I click outside and then click on the embroidery design, it is not really centered. Let me see here. We want this in for sure, but if we bring that down, then it's not going to be that 1/2 inch. I have to think. All right, so when I centered it, I've got it a 1/2 inch in from the left, but it's not centered in the block with the quilting. So I'm just going to move it down, keeping it still centered. All right, because we want this a 1/2 inch from here, but we want this part of the design to be centered. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and check it again. So with the ruler, I'm going to use this from this point here to this black square, and I've got exactly a 1/2 inch. You can see it down on the very bottom left-hand corner. So the design is centered vertically. It's confusing because the design is turned sideways, so it feels like it should say horizontally, but anyway, it is centered. You can see the design itself is centered because of the black squares right there. And then it's up a little bit closer because we wanted a 1/2 inch from the outer edge of the quilting. All right, I hope that makes sense. That's where you want it to be though, a 1/2 inch in from this outer edge here. When I unclick it, you can see the outer edge better right here. Okay, and you have to click on this though to be able to see that black square to line it up, or at least that's what worked for me. Let me know if you find a different way. So that was very easy to do, a little bit confusing, but there's 2 ways, and to me the easiest way was the first one that I showed, where you just bring in the quilting design, bring in the embroidery apple design, and then click on the apple, keeping it centered, and then measure. So from here, just measure this outer line to a 1/2 inch from here, and move it over until you get that 1/2 inch. And when I did it, it took 4 clicks to the left. I hope that helps. All right, and then don't forget to save it. So I'm going to go to File, Save Stitch File As. Notice that I didn't do a color sort or anything. We're just doing one block today, and that was easy, so we don't have to change any colors or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in I'm in Cuties right now, so I got to close that up, find Falling for Autumn, and Embroidery Files, Pez, the Quilt, and I'm going to name this 7 by 12 Crisp Apples. And then I'm going to say quilt too, so I know I've got my quilting and I've got it all aligned just right and ready to go. And then I'm going to go to Utility, send to Solaris XP1. If you don't have that feature, you would just transfer it to a USB stick. I've shown how to do that on lots of tutorials, so you should be all good to go to get this one block done today. And my shirt today, this is one of my favorites. I really like this one. This is from Embroidery Library. It's a bicycle and it has a sewing machine and a fabric bundle. Like, how perfect is this for me? I love this design. I will add information underneath this video with a link to where you can get the design if you choose. And actually the shirt is from Amazon. It's one of my favorites. It comes in several different colors and I love the fit, and it's stretchy too. I like this. It's really easy to embroider on. It's got a little pocket in the front and a hood on the back. So it's a really cute shirt. I will add information here or a direct link on where you can get the shirt to embroider on if you choose. And how are you doing with your goal? I love hearing about your goals and your adventures. I love to hear about it. So share information underneath this video in the comments. It also helps my channel somehow. I don't really understand that, but it helps my channel when you comment. So I did a run last night on my treadmill, and I took a couple of days off trying to get back from being out of town and so forth. And so I didn't run, and I ran last night, and it was a good one. I thought it was going to be really hard, and it was, by the way. It was really hard. So the trainer was John Peel. We were in Romania in this forest. It said it was a haunted forest, and that there have been UFO sightings, if you believe in that sort of thing, and lots of different things happening in this forest, and they've had scientists come out, like this area where they said that this UFO supposedly was, there no trees will grow there still to this day. So it was a very interesting run with a lot of cool information, but it was a hard run. It was a 35-minute long workout, but the run itself was 24 or 25 minutes long, just straight running. And that was a long time for me. It was long, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. There's no way. I haven't run in a couple of days. It's gonna be hard. I thought it was, and it was hard. Let me just say, it was hard for sure. But I kept with it. I kept looking at the time and how long I had, and I did it. I was really, really proud of myself for doing it and sticking with it. And the run was supposed to be, if I recall, it tells you at the beginning how long it will be, but it's based on time. So it's based on whatever, like it'll tell you we're going to run 2.15 miles, but then if you're running slower or faster, it's based on the time, like the workout ends at a specific time. And so it's based on your level of running. And that's why you can walk it if you want. You can run it harder if you want. You can do whatever. So mine ended up being 2.64 miles run. So that means I went faster than he did, or I ran longer than he did. And so that felt really good, because it was definitely a hard one for me. My heart rate got up to 160, and I was breathing pretty hard and trying to run on the treadmill and drink water because it was such a long run. It was hard, but I did it, and I was really proud of myself for it. So what are you doing that brings you joy, that makes you proud of yourself, that check something off of your checklist toward your goals? Whatever it is, share. I want to hear about it.